set up. We're pumping it out to the live stream on YouTube. Get you all set up. Take your time. There's just all 12 of my fans are tuned in. You should know this is the third live stream of the day. You're following a Nobel Prize winner, Eric Weinstein, Janna Levin, who's a MacArthur genius, Stefan Alexander, who's like basically a best-selling author, cosmologist, and now you. So I've got the chief sumo on board. This is me and Noah Kagan, who is busily setting up his technology.
No, I mean, it's pretty much set up. We're good to go.
That looks good. That's what I came for. That's what I'm paying for. This is the real deal. All right, Noah Kagan, I'm going to take a deep breath here. Are you ready? I'm going to take a deep breath because it's hard to introduce you in one breath, but here we go. Noah Kagan is a chief sumo at Sumo Group, where he helps entrepreneurs kick more beep. Before that, he was employee number 30 at Facebook, number 4 at Mint. And what employee number were you at Intel?
107,000.
Oh, cool. You have a little sticker when you get to that. Once they hit 100,000 subs.
You get the blue badge.
The blue tick. So what he does is help entrepreneurs, business people, and does a tremendous amount of outreach. He hosts OK Dork YouTube channel and his podcast, the Noah Kagan Presents podcast. And you can always find him eating tacos, et cetera. First of all, I shouldn't waste time with this. But before we get to it, what is sumo? Where does that come from? I don't know of too many sumos in Austin, Texas, or Jewish sumos or judos. Where'd you get that name?
Honestly, it was the best name we could think of. I'm not like crazy into sumos. It's never been a thing. We were in San Francisco at a bar trying a bunch of different names out. When we started App Sumo, it was like App Taco, App Ito, App Chief, and literally the only thing available was Sumo. And it was like, I don't know. I think people spend way too much. A lot of entrepreneurs are like, what should I name it? I'm like, do you have any customers? And I'm like, then it doesn't matter.
So I want to start with you. We normally have on, scientists, poets. Yeah. We have on all sorts of different people. But I want to first start with a very interesting. So these people get blurbs, you get blurbs on your book. You're rumored to be coming up with a book. I'm going to talk about that. But I want to start with a blurb about Noah from none other than God himself. And that is, this is Noah. Noah was a righteous man. He was perfect in his generation, and he walked faithfully with God. Now you are known, and then the next sentence that God blurbs you with is Noah had 3 sons. So unless I, don't know something, or you don't know something, you should look for a son named Japheth, Shem, and Ham somewhere around there. What do you think about God's
names, man? They got the Bible names going on. I like it.
What do you think about God? Let's go deep right off the bat. Judaism is big, important theme in your life. You call yourself the rabbi. Rabbi can't lose. You study Hebrew. I've had you over for Shabbat meals where you give a drusha. I tried to make a shidduch match, like a yenta that I am. It didn't work. But
dude, you did it.
We'll keep trying. Keep trying. You do so many different things. I want to know, we talk often on the Arthur C. Clarke's Into the Impossible podcast about alien abductions and so forth. If an alien abducts Noah Kagan, of all the things you do, of all the things that you're responsible for, what do you tell the alien when he says, who are you?
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Noah Kagan. How's it going? I think when the alien, I don't know if that's what we're going to be. One, I don't know if we have the same language. If an alien comes, I think I'd be pretty excited. I'd be like, yo, that's wild. You're here. Who am I? I'm like, yo, you could probably kill me first because I'm not an engineer. That's probably what I would tell him. I could help find the smart people that you probably want to take with you. Or if they just want to have like a good community party, I might be able to help organize that.
Yeah, I see you as the ultimate matchmaker, but you're too skinny to be eaten. You're not going to get too much on those chicken wings, especially after your mountain biking adventure across the Southwest that you just participated in.
Yeah, I think with the alien stuff, I've always thought this, where I've always admired like the artists and the engineers of the world. That's something I've always aspired to be, or just be around. Mm-hmm. And so I've always thought like businesses and marketer people. I'm like, what do you do here? So I think I'm just like, all right, well, let me go help you recruit the people and find the most amazing talent in the world.
And you do a lot to serve. I mean, you're brutally honest. You talk so much about your successes. As we noted, you were, hired but you were also fired. And I interviewed a fellow podcaster extraordinaire, Seth Godin, this week, and his podcast is out on my channel now. And I said to him, and I'm going to ask you the exact same question because we're all about recycling here in Southern California. I said, I've searched 1.6 million different TED Talks with my machine learning algorithm that I got at a discount thanks to AppSumo. And I found out that there are 2 words that precede the following sentence most often and most likely to be read before the sentence. The following sentence: it was the best thing that ever happened to me. What are the 2 words that precede "it was the best thing that ever happened to me"?
Well, it's good to see you, Brian Keating. We didn't even say hello. We just jumped into marriage. You're like,
That's right.
we're on our 3rd year anniversary.
We're just talking about God and politics.
Yeah,
and who
jump
you voted
right in,
for.
man.
Yeah.
The water's warm. Best thing that ever happened to me, probably being born.
Those are 2 words. Yeah,
I would say, being born, and then being born in I think I'm born in an awesome time. I feel very blessed to be who I was born to, and even my friend Neville's like, yeah, your parents were neurotic and Jewish, and I had a great family, and your upbringing was challenged, but I was like, honestly, it was amazing in its own right, and I feel very fortunate, being born in Silicon Valley, living in an area where Apple, and I got to meet Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and work for Zuckerberg. It's just very blessed. There's a lot of other ways that maybe would have turned out fine too, but I feel very blessed to be born where and when I was born.
Yeah, it's certainly a blessing. We'll talk about that, and we'll even have a guest question from one of our mutual friends. But the 2 words that are most commonly preceding "it was the best thing that ever happened to me" is "I failed." In other words, we have this notion that success is glorified, glamorized. I mean, after all, you're talking about what number you were hired, et cetera. Obviously proud of it, but actually, it's probably getting fired at Facebook that led to the greatest dividends in your life. What do you think about that?
I thought about that a lot. I think a lot of us self-rationalize and defend ourselves. That's why it's hard to drown, because your body's like, no, survive. And so I think we kind of justify whatever happens and we make the best of it. I think what's been interesting is I was thinking about it this week, where if I would have not gotten fired by Facebook and I had $200 million cash in the bank now, I'd be pretty freaking happy, dude. I'd be like, yo, this is the best ever. And I have let's say $10 million cash in the bank now. I'm pretty happy, but 200 million would have been a lot happier.
But there's only so many yachts you can water ski behind.
I mean, I still drive a 2004 Miata and a 2014 Buddy Genuine scooter. I think I've made the best of it. I think it's been amazing either way. If I would have got the 200 million at Facebook and those kind of experiences, I feel blessed that I got to be a part of that in my lifetime. But it's also led me to have a lot more adventures, I think, that I probably would have otherwise. I don't think I would have worked abroad. I don't think I would have started these companies and tried all these different careers out. I think if I had the $200 million, it probably would have been still as good, just different.
Yeah, it's a common theme, actually. What you lost is chump change compared to what Seth Godin claims he lost $8 billion by not capitalizing on the thing that you've really come to perfect, which is email marketing. I mean, he basically says how he invented it and describes that in his new book, The Practice. And, he lost $8 billion, according to him, and he sleeps fine at night. There was a third co-founder of Apple. His name starts like Wayne something. You probably know who he is. Yeah,
Wayne Hall, I think, or something. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't know. Do you really miss out on the things you did not do or the things you did? Right? I missed out on the 200 million. Well, I think it's different. I never had 200 million and I gave it back. I had the likelihood that my equity was going to vest, and hopefully Facebook is actually going to 10 years later be worth $700 billion. And then I'd be worth $700 million technically. But I didn't actually have that much. I think it's different if he had 8 billion and gave it away versus, maybe the people like us, who, not us, but so I think it's interesting if you had the opportunity, you did it, and then you lost it.
Yeah, I mean,
otherwise you could sit on the sidelines, just I should have done that. I could have. There's so many times, when I started a company, I could have sold it to Kabam, random ass company, for 1% at 100,000. They ended up selling in Asia for $1 billion. Or just a lot of these different opportunities. It's unless you had the money. I think bigger thing is it's almost at least we're playing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting on the sidelines, I should have done this. It's well, at least swing the bat. And I think that's the big takeaway for everyone. Like, oh, I should have partnered with this, or like Stripe. We were Stripe's biggest customer. I like asked, so let me make a point. Stripe's now $50 billion, whatever company. We were their biggest customer in like 10 years ago. And I said, hey, can I invest? They're like, yeah, maybe, whatever. And I kind of was just like, sure, like I let it go. And the reality is if I really wanted it and I really was like, yeah, I'm going to go for it, and then I don't get it, then you could say, hey, I had the chance. Otherwise, shut up.
Yeah, I mean, they asked Mark Zuckerberg. He turned down $1 billion, to sell Facebook to Yahoo back in the day, and he turned it down. He was like, "I'll just spend that money trying to create a social media empire, and why not I already have one, and yeah, it happens to be worth a lot." There's a commonality. I want to talk to you about scientific experiments because probably, I need your advice on a theory of quantum gravity. Hopefully we'll be able to.
Yeah, I was looking that up earlier today.
But there's a lot of commonality between starting an experiment, starting off with an idea, and then moving that into a tangible space. But I feel like there's a big difference between entrepreneurs such as yourself and businessmen such as yourself. I want to ask about that. If you could only do one thing, would it be entrepreneurship with the risk reward ratio perhaps being off the charts in either direction, or have a possibility for wealth and whatever, but as a business person just operating a growing business like you already have? Which side appeals to you more, entrepreneur or businessman?
I mean, you have to, I think for everyone, look at their behavior. What do? I do new stuff all the time. I start a new YouTube channel, or I start a podcast, or we start SendFox, or we start another thing. And, a lot of what I do online at my YouTube channel and so forth is teach other people how to start. And so I think sometimes as we get older, it's finally like, okay, let me just accept who I am. And that is a lot of what I've enjoyed. I also think that I'm not going to be the one inventing the next car or the next maybe revolutionary idea, but I'm pretty sure I can inspire them or teach them the marketing, whoever that person's going to be. And so that part's, I think a lot of my calling is like, I just love finding things that I'm excited about and telling the world about it. And I think the idea for everyone is like, how do you just create the career that you get paid to do what you love to do? And that could be it could be a toll booth. It could be working at a restaurant. It could be whatever it is. It's just getting to be able to do that, living the way you want. And so for me, it's starting things, sharing the content via YouTube or via blogging and so forth.
Now, obviously, there's a cost to doing that. You open up the sumo kimono on a regular basis, and I implore people to go to Noah's office hours. When you're not tuned in to the Into the Impossible channel, Dr. Brian Keating on YouTube, go to Noah's channel, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because if you don't, you'll actually have FOMO, because you won't get notified, as I was not today. I was talking to this Nobel Prize winner, man. I mean, I could have been talking to you.
So if they didn't figure it out, someone else would have figured it out.
Actually, a thing I wanted to talk to you about. So there's a difference we talk about in science or in math. So I want to ask you, have you ever seen a triangle?
Yes, I've seen a triangle once.
You have never? Oh, well, tell me about that experience with ayahuasca.
Are you saying a triangle or ayahuasca?
No, a real triangle. A triangle is 3 infinitesimal points.
I mean, I thought I've seen the triangle, but I'm guessing there's a new triangle I don't know of.
No, there's no such. You can't see anything that doesn't have 3-dimensional extent so that your eye could process it. Everything you've seen is a drawing of a triangle, but that's not a triangle. A triangle, literally in mathematics, are 3 points that only exist in the human mind. And that's what's so brilliant about the human mind and amazing, but miraculous about it, is that we have the ability to imagine the infinitesimal and the infinite, and no computer can do that. So you've seen approximations to that. So it wasn't fair to ask you that because you can't see it. On the other hand, the question is, are these ideas, you just said, oh, somebody else would have found it. We talk a lot about in math, is math discovered or is it invented? You seem to be suggesting that certain ideas are just discovered, like, if Columbus didn't come along, somebody else would have discovered America. So,
that's for sure. It would be called,
that's for sure.
Thank God we're not called the United States of salami.
And do you think that Facebook would have been discovered, or
it was already discovered? I mean, there was many Facebook. I think what's the interesting reality is, like, in 100 years, Zuckerberg is forgotten. His hospital is either destroyed, because if you look at buildings that get taken down and scraped all the time, they change the names depending on who pays the most. And the more we zoom out, like, we've only been around, like, that people are really talking a lot about it, 2,000 years, and we barely know a lot about what happened back then. So imagine in 2,000 years in the future, right now, this podcast, your YouTube, the Nobel Prize stuff, no one cares. And would it have eventually been figured out by someone else? Yeah. Did someone finally do it first? Yeah, and they get credit for it and they get rewarded in this lifetime. I guess I'm more of a enjoy Earth while we're here person. and like there was other social networks that Zuckerberg was doing at the time. Elon, yes, he started the rocket stuff, he started the car stuff. Electric cars have been around a long time. He's put it together in a better way.
The first car was electric. The first cars that they ever made were electric cars back in 1897.
Yeah, dude, I've been driving golf carts since I was a kid. Okay. And so, he plugged it in my grandma's house.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on any, I respect the inventors and creators. I think the prestige that it wouldn't have been happening otherwise is very debatable.
Mm-hmm. It actually reminds me of something I talked about, I forget with who, but if you go to Washington, D.C., and I don't know if you've ever been there, you see the Washington Monument, and you look at the top of the Washington Monument, it's coated in the most valuable metal on Earth when it was made. So do you know what it's coated with? Is it like this Nobel Prize over here that's gelt?
I have absolutely no idea.
It's coated with aluminum. Can you imagine? You can go down to get your, what kind of beer do you drink down there in Austin?
Fireman's 4.
You get a can of that, melt it down, time travel back to the 1800s, give it to them. They'll give you more than this chunk of gold over here. And it just shows you, as you say, this futility. There's a futility of pursuing things that are, tangibly ranked right now, get likes, get viewers, get subscribers. And yet, I want to push back on you a little bit because you do focus on this. It's not like you are above the, you're doing a lot. You're serving millions of people, including me. And I thank you with great gratitude for doing so. But you're not immune to it either. You do want to get a certain target. You have are those metrics for your own aggrandizement, or are they useful in some way to serve your mission?
I mean, to some extent, a lot of it is arbitrary, right? Like this much subscribers, this much money. To some extent, it's like, well, how much, why? I think you could argue like getting to Mars, like maybe we're going to save the civilization, or doing solar, maybe there'll be some climate change stuff. I think a lot of the interesting discussion is more around like opportunity cost. So if you're doing one thing, is there something else you could be doing that could be more impactful for yourself? For me, it's just kind of like knowing, giving me some goals. I'm a goal-oriented planner. I'm sure in some like Enneagram thing, I'm like an 8XBGA5.
That's my license plate. Why would you give away my license plate?
Slash
just doxed me.
Yeah, but I guess for me, it's just like it's helpful to know where I want to go, and then I like having goals in places that that's hard and desirable. And so, I'm not saying that none of it matters, but kind of doesn't. And so just find something that you're excited to do and go after it.
And when you look at what really excites you, you do so many different things. You pursue.
I really don't.
Well, look, here's your list of things you do. No. I'm quoting your website: mountain biking, chess, taco deli, reading words on pages, including losing the Nobel Prize. I'm rumored to be on your bedside table, stand-up paddleboarding, friends, lists, working out. I can add, this was written years ago. You're doing a billion things. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Do a few things. I mean, I think everyone does. I think everyone's busy. Everyone's doing a bunch of stuff. I think it's hard to say what is the best life to live. I think that's kind of the question. Is it like you've done a lot of stuff and you've made a lot of money, you've done charity work and you've helped a lot of people, you've done nothing and been homeless your whole life? Like, I guess it's an interesting say, like, what is the scorecard that we're going to measure our own lives by? And we probably change the scorecard as we go, and it's really figuring that out for ourselves. Sometimes people use religion for it. For me, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to get as many different experiences that I enjoy in this lifetime.
But I also see you as, that could be interpreted as hedonic, pursuing pleasure, pursuing money, not as an, pursue some piece of gold just to get dipped in it like Goldfinger. But actually, you do have a very soulful side that you're very free, that you admit you're all about self-improvement. But, as you're saying, are you nihilistic at the same token that, we're all going to just end up in a smoking cloud swallowed by a red giant supernova? Does it depress you? Or do you feel like, hey, I can only do what I can do now while I'm alive, and kind of that's all I control, a la Viktor Frankl?
I didn't really enjoy that book, and everyone loves quoting it.
I love the second half of it where he talks about Gestalt therapy. That's like, I just get so like, I'm just kidding. I hate that part. That's the.
I mean, there's a whole thing.
We don't have to talk about that.
I think no. I think in terms of like what life matters, and it's an interesting thought is for me. I think we put a lot of this emphasis about wow, Elon or Mark or Jeff, and I think everyone's got to figure out what they want to get out of their own lives. And I think for me, I also think like, all right, really in the macro view of everything that anyone's going to do, literally in our lifetime, none of it will matter. Your book, no offense, your research, it's going to get like blended into the dust of society. And so I think that's almost liberating. Like people are like, what's my legacy? I'm like, you're going to have a bench in a park that'll eventually get shit on by birds. And given that that's probably what's going to happen, so just enjoy and figure out what gives, what makes you tick, what stuff gives you fulfillment, what's challenging that you want to work on.
Yeah.
And accept that stuff and go after that. I think it's easy to kind of look at, oh man, I got to do something crazy big. And you should, if that's what that inspires you, and everyone should figure that out for themselves.
So I want to go down that thread
into
time travel. So there's a famous experiment. I forget who it was, but on Sam Harris's podcast, he talks about this thought experiment. Harris. What's that?
Who's Sam Harris?
He's some god. He's an evangelical Christian.
But like, why is Sam Harris so famous? I literally don't get it.
I think your buddy Tim, had a big part in that.
I just don't get his. It's not. I'm not hating on him, and maybe just educate me. He is like meditate and some other. What's his deal?
No, yeah, he's known as kind of a neuroscientist, and he thinks deeply about things ranging from a religion, pro and con, to meditation. To Buddhism and all sorts of things. But the main thing that really distinguishes him is that he's, I call him a devout practicing atheist, someone who's just militant, but speaks in such perfect prose, that he can rattle off an entire book page. And as if he wrote it, he's speaking it mellifluously in real time. He's got now, and he tributes, some of that to this paradigm shift that he underwent when he took psychedelics, mushrooms, other things, LSD, I believe, as well. But we're not going to talk too much about him. What I want to talk about is a thought experiment that he did. He said, if you could go into a closet, and in that closet, there's a button. And right before you push that button, and you're immediately teleported to wherever you want to go in the universe. And for me, that would be Mars, say. I don't know where it would be for
Mars,
you.
bitches.
So you have a right to do it. Now, when you don't actually go blast off there, they scan your body, and this machine teleports all the information about you and then reassembles you perfectly, flawlessly. And people have done this, and they came back and they said it was a great experience. But they say it's not painful at all. But there's one catch. Right before you push the button, they have to make sure there's not two Noahs, coming out of Noah's Ark. There's not two Noahs, so they kill the one that's on Earth that pushed the button. So the last thing that you remember when you materialize on Mars is going to be Noah pushing this button. Would you push that button?
And then I materialize on Mars, but I disappear from America?
Yeah, you die. You're eliminated from America.
No, I love it here.
Okay.
All y'all people who want to go to Mars, good riddance. Elon, you want to go there? See you later.
One of my friends said,
I'll enjoy America. It's a guaranteed I'm having fun. The whole oh yeah, let me go to this other planet. It's red. I'm like, yo, I'll just look at a telescope.
Speaking of telescopes,
people are just like, yeah, I want to get to Mars civilization. I think George Carlin said it well, and I loved it. He's like, the Earth's been around for billions of years. Don't worry about your plastic bags. Boo-hoo. It'll be okay. It's like, oh, we got climate change, global. And I'm not saying climate change doesn't exist, but I'm like, Earth's been okay. Yeah, are we doing lots of crazy stuff to it? Probably. Yeah. But I think people overreacted. Everyone calm down.
So I believe that you can actually do that now, maybe not with Mars. And it's funny that you said that, because one of my friends says, Elon wants to die on Mars, and he'll probably die. No, he'll probably die on impact. But but in reality,
I don't want him to die, anyone to die necessarily.
I see you, you came over, you played with my kids, and we had a great time. I see kids as a form of not material teleportation, but a way of cognitive and even values and ethical teleportation. You're not married, although you have 3 kids, according to God himself, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. But kids, I think, are a form of time travel in that your values can be teleported, not materially, but into the future. And so, as you know, my goal is to make the shidduch, make the match with you someday. But the point is, if that's true, that we're just going to be this bench in the, should I not have had so many kids?
I'm looking at some of the comments on YouTube. So can you hit gallery view so it shows both of us?
Oh, here, yeah. Let me
Keep
do
Callard.
that.
I don't think it's actually showing both of us.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just showing one of us.
It's okay.
Okay,
And I've
I'll
never
do
seen
that.
a
Yeah,
live stream, by the way, Brian, that's gotten so many downvotes. I downvoted it myself.
I know it's awful.
Wow,
Well,
three
somebody's
people.
talking about my ears or your hair or whatever. Anyway, I don't
That
care
is
about them.
all. You know, I guess I've just never. There's certain things I just haven't resonated with, and I think that's okay. Like, you know, Eric Weinstein, everyone like loves him, and I liked Eric when I met him. I just, when people start going into the physics and like going to Mars and all this stuff, I think my world and my enjoyment has been in like, I like this world and I like our stuff and I like the theoretical, like, you know, mental, you know, stroking. Just, I guess I just never really got into it. And even when it starts going, I'm like, I don't know, not that interested. But that's not a bad thing. I think there's just a lot of different topics out there for everyone.
I want to get back to entrepreneurship, something that you have a Nobel Prize in effectively. And that is, you know, there's no books that ever taught me how to be a professor, how to be, you know, I joke when my first child was born, one night I woke up and he was screaming his head off and, you know, we're new parents. And I turned to my wife and I'm like, get the instruction manual. You know, there's no instruction manual, right? We come in basically naked, covered in crap, right? And some say that's the way we go out as well. But I want to know, are there resources and tools or commonalities? You've done 200 interviews with leading thought leaders, and you've become a thought leader yourself. But what commonalities or what tools or how do you learn to be an entrepreneur? Like my followers want to learn how to be a scientist. Is there a book? Is there a shortcut? Is there a hack?
I think it's interesting with science and math. Like, I'm sure you have some science answer, but is 2 + 2 4?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know. I feel like you're so smart. You'd be like, oh, well, 2 + 2, it depends. I'm like, it's
no. To prove that to you is a book this thick. No, it's like actually to prove it to you is no simple matter. It's called elementary, but it doesn't mean easy.
I think what I wonder with business is that if there was as scientific of a formula, how come this is not as repeatable? Right? Like you can repeat math and you see, like if I have $2 plus 2 more, I have $4. But with business, I think there's been a lack of, here's what is the formula. If you follow it, you will get Y. I don't think there's as many clear patterns, but I think the two things that people should try to understand is like, what do you really want? Most people actually shouldn't be entrepreneurs. Most people don't want to be entrepreneurs because it sucks the majority of the time. And you're not going to make as much money as the guaranteed money of a teaching job or day job or whatever kind of thing. But I would say the formula, if you really want it and you want the freedom or you want the control or you want to just do it your way, and that's all great. Or you want to make, you know, you want to have more unlimited money. I think there's very clear, like haircuts. Someone commented on my hair, my ears. There's very clear haircuts and patterns you could follow and likely get success if you're willing to put in the work. I.e., if you want to do the content creator route, I call it the law of 100. Make 100 videos on YouTube, make each one a little bit better than the rest. And after 100 videos, you're likely going to have some audience. You should hopefully have some ad revenue. And now you can actually have a career. The problem is that it doesn't happen overnight. And you have to enjoy theoretically doing that work because it takes time to finally get the results. So that is one haircut. There's the like selling stuff haircut. Like you can go and sell all of your items and all your friends' items on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or Etsy or Amazon. And from there, find services you can start or find products you can do. There are clear patterns that people can copy. So the problem though is that people copy them and then they don't improve it or they don't learn and blah, blah, blah. But I think there's generally some formulas, but it is interesting. There's not like a book 2 + 2 is 4, the same thing there is with business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think people should go experiment though. Like my brother's a doctor and he's tried to start some businesses. And then he's just like, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to get rejected. I always tell people to do the coffee challenge, you know, ask for 10% off, but he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to do what it takes to get it. He'll do it for other things that matter. And I think people have to just determine what is it they really want, because maybe a job will suit them better.
Yeah. That was actually my next question. You know, why would anyone want to be a boss? Like heavy is the head that wears the crown of King Sumo, right? So when you, you know, are there aspects of it when you're just like, I just don't want to deal with him. I mean, you're always, you know, kind of joking with your team that you're out doing these cool adventures and they're home working in the office. But why would you want to be a boss? There's so much responsibility and there's a lot of downside, and 90% of businesses fail.
I don't know about some of these numbers, like 50% of people divorce. It's like, well, where's that from? Or 90% of business fails. Like, really? Did 90% of them also try hard?
Well, 30% of people use statistics to prove invalid points.
I think most statistics just serve whatever point you're making. So I'm always kind of like, it's like the polls or like this election. All of it's kind of like, who's saying this number and what's your bias? I've never wanted a boss, and I never wanted to be anyone's boss, and that's always been my goal. I don't want to anyone tell me what to do most of the time. Sometimes I like when someone orders food for me or chooses which restaurant. That's pretty nice. But the people I work with, I love people being like, yo, here's what I want to do, and here's what I want to do with my life. And I'm like, oh, how can I help you make that happen? And it's more on a mutual level. And so I think if I'm ever anyone's boss or anyone's my boss, there'll be problems. That's, to me, like the ideal outcome. And I think that's how you create a great company. You hire a bunch of people who don't want bosses that can manage themselves. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that at appsumo.com and in our YouTube channel as well. We have 2 guys full-time with me, and they run it they do what they want. And we get to come together collectively to make fun content and somehow we make a little bit of money doing that.
So that's a very great way of putting it. I want to ask you a question that's a personal import to me.
Nothing personal, dude. You know the rule.
I've got this embarrassing rash, and
Wait, Brian, it's your mother. Have you called your mother on Shabbat, Brian?
I do.
Every Friday, I've got to call her.
Now, science has the world's best content. It's said that, a sufficiently advanced science is indistinguishable from magic, except it's magic that actually works, unlike that brand of close-up magic that you perform that, doesn't seem to ever give me back my bunny rabbit that you took with you when you visited. I want to prestidigitation. We have the greatest content. Science, we invented the atom bomb. We invented the atom smasher. We invented the telescope, blah, blah, blah. We have a terrible marketing problem. There's a joke that I use all the time. How do you know a scientist is outgoing? Well, he looks at your shoes when he talks to you instead of his own. We're not good at being extroverted. We're not good at marketing. We have a huge marketing problem. We have the greatest content in the known universe. How would you recommend physics? Oh, come on. You can come up with an atom bomb, please. You've got so much gaiva. If you wanted to promote physics, let's say we have physics YouTube channel, how would you do it?
I think physics and science from high school is all broken. So how do you I think the way to make it really more popular is make it more applicable. So for example, right now I'm making coconut wine, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then now if it's like, hey, here's yeast, it's a molecule, it eats this alcohol, it poops, it eats the sugars and it poops that alcohol. I'm like, they're like, whoa. And if they actually use that to explain the science behind it, I'm like, yeah, I want to make more drinks. And the same thing with physics. Like, hey, if you're building your house and you need to figure out angles for your roof because of rain, but right now physics, a lot of it is like, oh, it's more theoretical. Like if a ball is rolling flat, and it's like, I'm never going to use that. Same thing with mathematics. And so I think it's more of
it's a way of thinking, though. It's a way of hacking the creative part of the brain that wants to invent, in physics in particular, versus the purely theoretical abstract mathematics where, as I said, you can't give me a triangle. You can't give me the number 1. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist except in this 3-pound supercomputer that resides on our shoulders. And so physics, to me, I agree with you. It seems so impractical, but actually it's extremely practical. It's very flexible. We physicists can code websites. We can do YouTube channels, and we can do atom smashers. And there are very few people that meld those kinds of disparate skills into one mélange, as you would say. But I want to ask you a question about failure. And you've talked so much about this. And I kid you, we're kidding each other. We're giving each other the business. We're boxing each other's ears. But I have a great deal of respect for you, for your vulnerability, for your openness. You share things, your lessons from your therapist. There's 2 things I want to talk about. In academia, we are not able to, choose ourselves, as our friend James Altucher talks about. We have gatekeepers at all different levels. You went to a tiny little no-name school up north in Berkeley, California. That's not in any way comparable to UC San Diego, but you had to get in there, right? And you had to be accepted. Then if you went to graduate school, you got to get accepted. You can't get rejected. Then to become a professor, then to get tenure, then maybe to win a Nobel Prize. There are all these opportunities for rejection, for astonishing, painful opportunities. How do you suggest to my academic, young people that listen to this podcast that want to be scientists, they have to go through academic Hunger Games, as I call it, kind of many people enter, few get to the top. How do you suggest they persevere? You can't just say grit, grit it out. How do you handle failure in that way?
So what is it that the audience is trying to accomplish?
They want to get into, they want to keep their sanity without, but participate in all these different gatekeepers, that are going to keep them out of college, keep them out of grad school, keep them out of professorships. How do you handle rejection without letting it go, get you down?
It gets me down.
But you have tools, right? So what do you do with it?
It just gets me down, and then I'm depressed and I regret it for some period of time. And then theoretically, it should make me hungrier. Let me give you an example. I wanted to buy a building around the corner for me, but I didn't really want a building right now. And it was like, it was $2.5 million. And I'm not bragging, I'm just giving you perspective. And then, and I didn't really kind of want it right now. I might want it later. And this realtor was like, hey, you want to check it out? So I checked it out. I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. He's like, you want to put an offer? I was like, I don't know. And then we put an offer for like 50,000 over asking, and I didn't get it. And then, obviously it's one of those things where, like, because you didn't get it, like, oh man, I really wanted that. And then I was like, well, okay, let's just take a step. And I was, a little bummed, and I drive by it every day when I go home. And I said, well, did you really put in all the work you thought possible to get what you wanted? And I was like, well, I didn't clearly 100% desire it. And I didn't do all the things that were possible to make that happen. And so I was like, all right, well, how do we take that and use that moving forward? It's like, well, be really more clear on what you really want. Do you really want the building now or not? No. Okay. So that's step one. And step two is like, if you do want something, if you want a woman or man, if you want a grad school, if you want a house, if you want a job, like how far have you gone to reduce the uncertainty that you wouldn't get it? Like if I really wanted that building, why wouldn't I put 100,000 offer? And if I really wanted a certain relationship with anyone, or as an example, I wanted to invest in this one company, I'm like texting them all the time. And I want to put everything on the table that I have a chance to actually get it because I do want it. And so I think people have to say, if you really want to go to Berkeley, if you really want grad school, if you really want a job, if you really want to start your own company, I don't think there should be a balance. I think there should be an imbalance, because if you don't really want it, then if you don't really want it, you're not going to put in the work. But if you put in the work, you've done everything, you should be proud of it, either if you get it or not.
Very good. So yeah, you leave it all on the playing field. Okay. No.
Yeah, the regret is if you didn't really do stuff. Sorry.
Yeah. And also, I point out, and it's a theme in my book, that, you spend most of your time in headwinds in life. You spend most of your time failing. Like the odds of getting back to the World Series, 100 years in a row are zero. You're not going to keep, even if you won it, you're the best in the world, at the US Open of tennis, you're not going to get back. It's basically almost guaranteed that you won't make it back eventually. Your body will just not be able to do it.
The only thing I would actually challenge a little bit of that is that I think you should still have the mindset that you can.
Yeah, of course.
I think you should be in the mindset that, like, if you believe you can and you put in the work for it and you want it, then yeah, you should keep going for it. I think people are like, well, you can't win every time. I'm like, shut up.
That's right.
I'm like, yeah, why not? If you like, here's the thought. When people tell me, hey, you're going to die. I'm like, why? It's because everyone says it. Everyone always is like, well, you're going to die. You're going to die. It's like when more people start saying, maybe we can live forever. Maybe we can live till 200. There will be ways that we start thinking, oh, we'll change our mindsets. Maybe we can make that happen. So I don't particularly like when people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to regret this, or like, I can't win all the time. Like, yeah, you can win all the time. And maybe eventually you'll be told you can't do it, but at least have some attitude that you can and you'll go after it. Same with living forever. Someone out there try to figure that out.
So yes, actually my son Elijah is working on the never dying pill, and that segues nicely into my next question. So if you could take a pill that would guarantee that you would live forever, but everyone you know and love will just continue and die at their normal life expectancy, would you take that pill? Would you want to live forever?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I would just make new friends, and they'd probably be better because I'd know which ones I don't like and which ones I do like. And then I'd just be like, I get to do all these new experiences, and I would try things differently. I like that people are calling me an elf. I think that's funny.
Be nice in the chat room or I'll cut you off.
I know these people, man. You're not living by yourself forever in this world, right? Like, think about how many books you could read. Think about like how many things you can work on, and all these people keep living. You're gonna meet I would have liked to live it during the country western time. I love country western, like the movies and the horses and like the saloons, doop-de-doop-de-doo. Like that would have been cool. And then in 50 years or 200 years, when we're in like some cyber galactic world, that's going to be wild too. Yeah. And so I honestly don't know if people appreciate like how I'm like, yo, we live in one of the most awesome ages ever. Like the things that are getting invented, the things that are happening in society, the abilities to have interactions and connections like globally, instantly, the speed of everything changing. And right, in 10 years, we'll look back on this video or this podcast, be like, oh man, that was outdated. Look at them. Look how outdated they are.
Yeah.
And because right now it seems so damn amazing. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is the greatest time to be alive, but then applying the law of induction, tomorrow will be better than today. And so at least but a lot of those developments are thanks courtesy of scientific engineering and other breakthroughs, people wanting more and not being satisfied. Like I heard a quote from one of my friends was like, quoting like Kurt Vonnegut. He was at some billionaire's house and one of his friends, maybe it was Joseph Campbell, I don't know, someone in the chat room who's not mean-spirited, please tell me what this anecdote is supposed to say. But they were at this billionaire's house and they said, one of the billionaire guy, non-billionaires, Joseph Campbell, the writer, maybe, he said to Kurt Vonnegut, he said, this guy has everything. And Kurt Vonnegut said, no, I have something he'll never have. What is it? He said, I have enough. And, but I think, that mindset is first of all, it's very non-Jewish to be satisfied with. I mean, have you ever met like a Jew who's like, oh, everything's perfect,
No. I mean, look at Larry David is like the most Jewy of all Jews. If you want an example of like what it's like growing up Jewish, like and every culture has different trade-offs. I think the enough thing is I think that's a really great point, man. Like with money, especially, I struggle with that. Like how much is enough? And so then it's like, well, how do we just work on the things scientifically in science or in academia or in the government or in the private sector or nonprofit, whatever it is. I think the finding of enough and just being able to work on things you really enjoy, I'd love to see everyone live that life. Like I would say, it's hard to say what's the right life, but like my parents' life, I was cool. I got to see it because they worked in jobs mostly they hated for 20, 25 years. And now finally they get to live. And I think it is nice in this generation. I don't have to be millennial about it, but like, hey, why don't I try to make money doing something I actually enjoy for the next 400 years?
Yeah, and maybe that could be even contributing to the betterment of mankind, humankind. And how do you divide your time? You once told me, your advice to, I was a starting off YouTuber and you're like, what's your advice? I said, what's your advice to grow? And you were like, just enjoy it. And do you see this trajectory of you plot your optimization of happiness curve? Are you enjoying it more and more? Your YouTube, it seems like that's predominantly where your creative juices are flowing. Although I want to talk to you about a book that you're rumored to be working on. Is that what's giving you your peak mental creative enjoyment, or is it new taco recipes?
I'm on onlyfans.com/Noah. If you don't know about that site, don't go there. NSFW. I think about two things. I think about opportunity costs pretty regularly, which I don't think is an unhealthy thing to consider. It's like, what is the best use of your time depending on what you want? And right now, I get a lot of fulfillment making the content. What I do, which I think a lot of people I think is helpful for me and other people could consider using it as well, is that on Sundays, I really look at the week. And I'm like, how much of this week do I really want to do? And how much of the week do I have, air quote, have to do? And I think that's true for the whole week. And then specifically within the YouTube content world, how much of this content do I really excited to go make some content about? Like we put out a video about the presidential Facebook ads. That was really exciting and interesting to learn. And it did well, which is also a nice bonus. I did a video yesterday about like $1 million products, and it was just a grind. And I was like, I don't have to do this. So how do I just focus more on what I want to do? And I think that's what a lot of us have to do is like maximize what we want and then minimize what we have to be doing. And the more that you kind of allocate around that, I think it'll reduce FOMO or regret. And that's what's been enjoyable with the YouTube. Like on Fridays, I do office hours to the subscribers. And it's like hundreds of people show up and we just hang out and talk, and probably one of the highlights of my day. And it's just like, I get to help these people. I get to learn from these people, and we're all, everyone's trying to do their own entrepreneurial journey. And I'm glad I get to be a little shepherd.
That's how we met.
A little cheerleader on everyone's journey. I think everyone should at least experiment with writing and communication and practicing it. Whether they want to be doing that as a full-time thing, it's not for everyone, but it's something I've enjoyed. And I think it's fun to be able to, it's like open the doors of connecting and learning and blah, blah.
Yeah, I want to speak about books for the end of the, as we get to the end here. You got a few more minutes to go here.
Yeah,
are you like
commenters? You have literally like the worst audience.
Thank you.
On YouTube. Seriously, like
no,
I've been doing YouTube for a year, and I will say I've almost seen very little negativity and like
Are these
hate.
people
But
being
you're
negative? I gotta cut you all off, man. This
Dude,
guy's the
these
Nobel
people,
Prize winner
I
of.
work at Starbucks. By the way, I would never work at Starbucks because I work at Pete's Coffee. Obviously, you don't know shit about coffee. Calling me an elf.
That's rude.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
dude,
start
I wanna
blocking
see
some of you.
these people that are talking crap. By the way, one, put your picture online. I bet you're not better looking than me. I bet you my mom would vote for me over your face. Two, stop sitting on the sidelines criticizing. Like, go do something about it or go do something else.
Well, there's like, yeah, they're like watching it. You know, I always say to them, I'm happy to refund your money. You know, if you guys didn't like this, I'm happy to refund your money. But in actuality, I do read the comments. I can't say I read them all, but it's certainly not while I'm interviewing the guests. So I'll go back and I'll do some selective editing. But speaking of editing, this comment about Starbucks, I want to just maybe Neil, you who I know happen to know is a very nice guy, Neil, maybe you would benefit from learning about the Starbucks challenge, because this is a Talmudic endeavor that Noah has pioneered. I want to talk to you about that.
Jew of all Jews I know.
Let's
let me just tell you there's a scientific thing. By the way, it's all a lot of bullshit when people are like, let me tell you science. I'm like, that's just made up. Like the new Trump thing, relative facts. I'm like, you can't have a relative fact. But what the scientific theory that some of these people like Neil are doing in your audience is they're doing the seagull theory. Have you heard of the seagull theory?
Seagull, like at the beach?
Seagull, like the bird.
Yeah.
So the seagull theory is when these people like your audience come in and shit, and then they just fly away. And I think more people should try to come in. I don't know what the theory, maybe the Brian Keating theory was, where you come in, you bring them all together, you love everyone.
The albatross.
Yeah, the albatross, and you scoop them all up and you hang out in Brian's beak. That's right. And we try to help each other on this journey of life. Exactly.
So one of those things that's helped me, and not because, and this is where I do think you're a scientist, but you don't really know it. You do more experiments than half of my graduate students. And one of the experiments you do, you talk about getting to 100, which I wanted to point out. I ran this by James Altucher before the show, and he's probably watching somewhere. I think he's the one who's talking about your ears, actually. He's
I've always been self-conscious about my ears since probably high school. Because I always got you think being called elf is the first time? But then this
guy did a video about losing his hair. So F off.
Oh, that video was pretty, once you start to be like, yeah, I have pointy ears. Yes, I'm bald now.
Yeah. Like, I'm overweight. I'm
not overweight, but it's just something that's just, I can't change it. I guess I could go get ear surgery. But when some random internet troll says
he runs the Ear Implant Institute of Southern California. I happen to know that for a fact. Yeah, anyway, you have the rule of 100, which I want to point out. You missed out. There's something called the rule of 10,000 hours, right? What's the square root of 10,000?
100.
100. Now imagine a matrix in your brain. Okay, we're going to do some serious math here. You ready for this, brother?
Hit it.
So imagine a matrix, which is a square array of 100 columns and 100 rows. That has 10,000 elements in it. Now imagine each one is an experiment. Each one is a challenge, is an idea across the top row, and then each one is exact same copy of the columns are the rows. So you've got 10,000 elements, but half of them are exactly the same as the other half, right? So the top half, the top triangle of this matrix, I should put it on the blackboard behind me. But imagine the matrix is like idea number 1 out to idea 100. Then it's idea 1 out to idea 100. So half of those 5,000 of them are identical, actually less than that. And then the middle, the column that goes down the diagonal, Noah, those are all idea 1 paired with idea 2. But now look at this. Look at how many different combinations of ideas. There's idea 37 combined with idea 69, and they make a baby. I'm not going to go there, but they make a baby. They make a combination of ideas. And by having 100 ideas, you actually have close to 5,000 idea combinations. And you can actually extend this to triplets of ideas. This is how Facebook works, by the way. I don't know if you've gotten it. It's called network theory. And that the number of connections of a network of n members is proportional to the square of the number of members. So you have this rule of 100. It's actually close to like 5,000 if you just combine these ideas and these experiments together. So that's your math lesson for the day. Take out your number 2 pencil, brother. We're about to write it down. Talk about the coffee challenge. This has gotten a tremendous amount of attention. You and I had a Talmudic disputation about this. I'll get into that if we have time. What is the Starbucks, the coffee challenge?
Do your academic people care?
They do, because you know what? They're close. They're going to make use of being rejected. I wonder
the people who are inventing the future, if they're sitting in a school doing it, like researching, or if it's the person who doesn't know what they can't do. Right? The people doing it via the book are going to follow the book and the rules. And I'm trying to encourage myself and a lot of people to break the rules. Maybe not stoplights and traffic lights, but other rules out there. A lot of the greatest inventions didn't come from someone who had permission for it, which I think is one of the problems in academia. And so the Starbucks challenge specifically on that same vein is you should go try things that push the boundaries of your abilities, and you could figure out how much more you can do in life. And one of them is just the fear of getting rejected. And the boundary is like, all right, let me go ask for discounts at restaurants or Starbucks or wherever you go. And I still do this to this day. Ask for the discount. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I just want 10% off. They're like, why? I'm like, just cause. They're like, no. And I'm like, all right, thanks, bye. And then you just move on. And, you know, I try to do that in different ways. Like either if it's like someone I want to go talk to, like I did it 2 weeks ago. There's a girl doing gymnastics at the park. She's holding from a bar. And I was like, I went up to her, I was like, hey, are you doing gymnastics? Which is a pretty dumb thing to say. But I just went up and wanted to start talking because I said to myself, that voice came up, the voice that we all have, which is, Brian, you should try this. And then once you start negotiating, it's over. But that moment you've had this thought, I'm going to go do this thing. Just go fucking do it. Freaking do it. Sorry. So for me, the coffee challenge is like anyone out there that, oh yeah, I'm already old. I don't have to do that stuff anymore. Then just give up. But I think that's kind of the cool parts of life where you see what some abilities that you can do are. It makes it a little bit more. I think about why do any of this stuff, and it's like, well, I think it just puts a little more color in the picture. And I like having it more than just a black and white photo.
You know, it'd be a great experiment, you know, is to see what point do you get 100% acceptance, right? You ask for 0% off, they're going to give it to you because you're not challenging them at all. And you're not challenging yourself. Is it better to get more rejections or to get more experiments in? The rejection. I mean, from a business setting, which I'm guessing a lot of your audience is not really successful in business if they're watching you. Because they're trying to not lose the Nobel Prize. No, I mean, we have actually ran in the history of Sumo Group and AppSumo.com and our companies, I wouldn't say thousands, but I'd say hundreds of experiments. And about 10% or less actually made a difference ever. It was like 15% when we last looked. So the reality is that most don't work, but that's hard to keep going sometimes when it's not always working. So the more that you can make that a muscle and a skill, the easier it'll become. Very good. Okay, you've got a few more minutes. We've got some questions from someone named The Rock, and we're gonna get to that. But you got a couple more minutes before Shabbat gets brought in the Austin area. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So I asked these questions of all my guests, so you're not going to be immune to them. The first one is, please provide a non-abelian gauge connection that unifies quantum electrodynamics with quantum gravity.
Dude, it's so funny you asked about that. Because I wiped my tuchus with the different science books, not yours, obviously, but the science of all this stuff that's irrelevant. The only science book that's ever been good is Richard Feynman's. And it's because he wrote interesting stories that made you care.
What do you care most about? What do you remember from him?
I don't remember a lot. I just remember that he was having fun with it. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to do bongo drums. I'm going to stop drinking one day. I'm going to go try this like different. And I think there's something beautiful about the way he explains things in ways that engage and also help us understand. It was beautiful. I
know. And he said, he used to crack the safes at Los Alamos National Lab where they were building the bombs just to piss off the security guards that were there. He had a magical mercurial way of looking at the world. Is college worth it right now, considering where 5G has gotten to? I had Peter Diamandis on the show at the beginning of my pandemic podcast, and he said, 5G is the future. It's going to change everything. You grew up near Apple. Now they're putting out all these iPhones with 5G. With AR, VR, NR17, is college going to be worth it anymore if you were starting out?
I'm just trying to be contrarian just to kind of it's like everyone nowadays is like, oh, college not worth it. I loved college. Honestly, it was an amazing 4 years. I got to try so many different, I tried out government. I was like, yo, that sucks. All these people are stupid. I got to try out a bunch of different classes. I took a South Park class because obviously Berkeley is really impressive.
Rigorous. Yeah, that's right.
I tried computer science and I was like, I'm not smart enough for that, but I did it enough where I could work on it and hire people. I think there's a lot of non-tangibles potentially that are really valuable in college. Just socializing. I think if you're looking at it straight from a ROI, are you going to make more money directly? It gets questionable. But there's still status when you meet someone that went to Harvard. But at the same time, when I go to my dentist, I don't look what degree is on the wall.
Right. Yeah. I've never asked someone that I hired, what
Yeah,
college?
I honestly don't know.
Sorry. You went to Berkeley? Sorry.
I don't mind. Well, I met a girl yesterday. She didn't go to high school. My business partner never went to college. I think everyone should try different paths out, or not try. What I guess one question is, would I have my kid go to college? And so my brother's kid, I put money in just a fund, but he doesn't have to go to school. It's just for whatever he wants to do in the future. And so I think as people are getting older in the next 18 years, I definitely think it's going to shift to online. It's going to shift to, like, the shift that got me excited is that now people in poor areas can have the best teachers. And I think that's the part that I actually got really excited about. So there's not this excuse like, hey, you didn't grow up in Cupertino or Saratoga or the Woodside. You grew up in the really shitty area. You can have those teachers. And especially
you could have Galileo, you could have Einstein be your teacher. You could have anybody you want, right? Yeah.
And so I don't know if I think college I have to leave my house. I have to figure out how to wash my butt, do my laundry, be responsible for finances. I think that's the part of college that probably isn't as helpful as it could be, but is probably the part that it could be providing.
Okay, next question revolves around the names of how I got the podcast, which is from Arthur C. Clarke, who said a bunch of different laws, one of which is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I kind of ran that one by you a little while ago. The next law is for every person who's an expert, there's an equal and opposite expert. And then his last law's third law is the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little bit past them into the impossible. I want to ask you, what obstacle or impediment seemed impossible to a young Noah Kagan, age 25, that now seems eminently doable because you went ahead, had the courage, and did it?
I think there's probably still something there on having my own family. I think that I'm single, don't have a wife, no kids. I think there's like some self-limiting belief or some story that like it's supposed to appear, like I just go home and they're there. But I think it's possible. I feel it's like I'm at a better place where I'm more ready for something like that coming up. So I think that's definitely one that comes to mind.
Yeah, well, it's not that impossible. People have been doing it for about a billion years.
Look, I can go get married. I could go marry a homeless girl off the street, and give her like a real toilet, which she may not even like. But right. I think find something that's like that I'd be excited to do for the next hundreds of years. I also think that just to quickly add, I got to do it because I'm always a plus oneer. I think the whole being able to like call people on the phone, like the Dick Tracy stuff from being a kid, is like that's got to be the coolest.
Yeah. This is more in the vein of advice to your former self, but now.
Oh, like what I didn't think was possible in life,
for yourself that you did advice to your former self, like something that seemed like starting a business or becoming, having hundreds of thousands of people know who you are and learn from you.
I've always kind of expected that, and that's not an arrogant thing. I just always thought I'd do business. I'd always thought I'd do like presentations and stuff. I think one thing that maybe I didn't, my former self is like, I didn't know if I could like myself as much as I'm doing now. And it's not every day, but definitely with like therapy and like work and friends and the mentors and advisors I have, I'm like, I actually really I like who I'm becoming. I like who I am now and who I'm becoming. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I went back and watched a lot of videos with you in the past, preparing for this interview in the bathroom this morning. And the transformation, not only the difference in hairstyle, but the transformation of your neshama, of your soul, that you've really embodied, the growth that you've enabled in yourself that is now levered and leveraged through the vast impact that you have on society. Look, I'm 10 years older than you, and you've influenced me, and you've helped me in this niche. And we wouldn't have met if I didn't have the courage to do the office hours and reach out to you and say, I got a nice Jewish girl for you.
That was impressive. That was honestly like, by the way, Brian, it's interesting. You're kind of like, well, Brian is this random professor from UCSD, a school that I actually was my first choice, but not a lot of people know of. And he's able to get some really interesting guests and associate with people. I think there's a lot for the audience to learn from that. And so how you approached me was, hey, I know you're in San Diego. I know you're single. Here's a woman that you might be interested in. And he honestly, I can't talk about it on the show, but what he sent, guys, I mean, you can only imagine. And then he's like, I have a dinner if you want to come to my house. And then it turns out he has this nice house, like next level stuff. And he's got a wild story, and he gives me the piece of the moon. He's like, hey, you should marry one of my daughters. I was like, Brian, she's only 8. But anyways, I think there's something there that can be learned about Brian's approach to living and associations, and what you were going after, which is I would say commendable.
Well, I think the essence of Judaism is the middle of the word Jew. I don't know if you know this, but Yehuda, the word that Jews are named after, means gratitude. Hodea, it means thankfulness. And I see that in you. You have a tremendous amount of gratitude. You've done a lot for the world, and the world has a lot of gratitude for you. So I just want you to know that you've had an impact on so many people. One person that you connected me to, he goes by the name of The Rock, and he would be on this chat if he wasn't in a high-powered meeting, nailing down millions and millions of dollars, I'm sure. He says this is one of his favorite questions. He hasn't asked it of you, but it's a way to get to know a person like Noah. NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, calls Noah. They want Noah to be the first person to land on Mars and set up shop. You will go down as one of the most heroic, famous, transformative figures in history. The trip will take 5 years. You'll come back and you'll live in America. If you survive, and there is only a 15% chance that you'll die, would you do it?
No, I'm staying on Earth, dude. I already told you back before. I love Earth.
You're going to come back. You're going to have everything you have and a little bit more.
But there's a 15% chance I'm dying.
Okay, so now he says there's a 14%, 13%. Do I hear 10, 12?
I don't want to go to Mars.
You don't want to go at all.
No. I would see, as an entrepreneur, I would hire someone to go for me, and I would try to take all the credit for all of their work. That's what an entrepreneur does. I'm like, yo, let me see if I could hire someone. But anyways, like, my job is to promote that trip. And I'd probably sell tickets. I'd probably live stream it on this channel with all these viewers.
Yeah.
Sell tickets, make a bunch of money.
19.
And pretty damn happy with it. But no, I'm super into Earth. Like, Earth is like my number one destination. I don't want to go anywhere.
All
like,
right,
I'll probably go to Thailand, maybe Japan or Israel. But yeah, whoever, go to Mars. Y'all want to go to Mars, go to Mars. I don't know.
Make up more room for us, right? Okay, last question.
Leave Earth to me. If you guys want to go there, see you later. I'll enjoy Earth.
More tacos for Noah.
There's the Mexicans make great food out here. There's like Middle Eastern food. There's a bunch of like good-looking people on this planet. Like, how many good-looking people? How many aliens you seen that are good-looking? 0. UFOs are probably real, but I'm so into Earth. Like, I'm just, when you're in America and you're like driving around, you're like, holy crap, this is such a big place. I haven't explored any of it. So why are we trying to go somewhere else when we haven't even done a good job where we're at?
Last question is again going to connect back, although I had some questions for you. Would you ever move back to California?
So I feel like some of your audience is like, yeah, we want Noah to go to Mars and never come back.
Oh man, that is brutal.
They're like, get out of here. Are you leaving yet? Zach, can you give me like 2 minutes? Yeah, thanks. California, I think what's interesting is it's not that to be a salmon, but I think sometimes if everyone's coming to Texas, which is everyone's talking about it, I'm like, maybe I should go somewhere where everyone's leaving, like California. California is a bomb state. California is there's a reason it's the best.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the weather's the best, the people are the best. I think some of the way the government's run there specifically is like discouraging people from staying. But dude, you have such diversity there. There's a lot of appeal in California. I'm originally from there. I feel blessed to be from there, and I feel home there. I don't know if I'll have like a house there, but I definitely will always going back to California. Move there permanently full time. I don't think I'll move permanently full time anywhere. Yeah. I think this quarterly living style, like 4 months a year or 3 months a year in different places, is the future for a lot of people.
All right, last question. So there's a concept that I learned about called the ethical will. So a material will is what you leave your money to and how you divide up your cash and everything. But an ethical will, or in Hebrew, it's called a zava'ah. It means a document that conveys wisdom, something that would be worthy of preservation for the future for your biological children, but for everybody's children, theoretically, even including your son, Japheth. But the question is, for you, what would you leave as an ethical will for all humanity to benefit from?
An ethical will. I don't know. I mean, I just did my will, and I think the two
learned
things
from doing that, by the way, was it mortifying? Was it depressing?
Yeah, I was like, holy crap, I'm gonna have to. It's like actually dying.
That's my theory, by the way. The reason I've asked this of billionaires, I've asked this question of Nobel Prize winners. The reason I ask it, I actually think that if more people wrote down their will, you'd have fewer suicides. You'd have fewer people taking life for granted. You'd increase gratitude. So I've done it. And I think writing down not just your material will, presumably you took care of me in your material will rather handsomely with some Bitcoin and Taco Coin. But
Dude,
I want to know.
Bitcoin's been good to me. Noah's a rich man, my friend.
It is nice.
I think in terms of ethics and like what to leave the
wisdom.
world.
Yeah, the wisdom. Yeah.
I mean, have fun. That's it. You're here for a very short time. Have some fun.
All right.
I was just thinking like my will, I put money dedicated to having a party at my grave. I want like a karaoke machine. I like vending. I like a taco cart. You know, someone's asking California or Texas Mexican food. It's really debatable. I'd say California burritos, but Texas tacos.
You can't answer that. You can answer that, but you can't answer the abelian gauge field theory question.
I mean, I already did it, bro. Come on, bro, science. Look it up. Google it. Anyways, yeah, have fun. You're here for a little bit of time.
All right, Noah. I love you, man. Keep doing what you're
doing.
doing.
You too.
Shabbat shalom, my friend.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Look at all 1,000 of you listeners.
We got
that are criticizing and hating. You can't stop it. You can't.
Go to Noah's channel. Okay, Dork. Find him on Twitter. Someday he'll follow me. It's Noah Kagan.
I did follow you, and I unfollowed because I don't want to personally. I only have so much time to live. So I don't only have so much attention, and if it's not relevant, everyone should unfollow. I saluted it. Yeah, I blocked you, so I'll never hear from you again. I did get blocked. All right, I gotta